right, a little live discussion going on. This is live stream, but it's going to be reposted to YouTube. For everybody new around here, my name is Colin Bashnigal, the host here at Bash the CFB Show, and we got breaking news. James Franklin is fired at Penn State. Ian in the comments just summed it up very well as a Penn State fan. Much greater chance we become Nebraska than we become UGA. Look, here's the deal about Penn State firing James Franklin. They were as close to a national championship as they've ever been in my lifetime, in my 24 years of life. And I'm sure a lot of Penn State fans are also in the same boat. There's a lot of older ones, of course, that can remember the 80s and early 90s with some really good players in which they won a national championship in the 80s. Look, Penn State was nothing when James Franklin took it over, and he got them off the ground in 2016, and ever since 2016, majority of years, they're contending for a playoff spot, makes the college football playoff last year, gets to the semifinals, plays the national runner-ups, 2-1 score, in which, by the way, the national champions came to Penn State, and they played them within one score. I always say this, and a lot of other people echo the same thing, and I know Josh Pate is big about this on his channel. You are so close to being at the top. It is a blessing when you are in a position to be in those top 5 games and you end up losing them. But at some point, you expect there to be some breakthrough. Unfortunately, Penn State fans felt like they gave enough time for some breakthrough with James Franklin. But just look at Ryan Day last year. I mean, the narrative around him was he can't win the big one. And then he rallies off 5 straight top 10 victories en route to a national championship. 4 straight, I believe, top 5. I think Indiana was ranked 5th. And then they ended up beating Oregon, who was ranked number 1. They beat Texas, who was ranked 3, I believe. And they beat Notre Dame, who I think was ranked 5th or 4th, one of the two. So I think they were 5th. So at the end of the day, that narrative that a guy can't get over the hump is just wrong. Now, I think Andy Kotelnicki was the wrong hire, and that falls on the head coach. It is very clear that a lot of what they do is just too much cute stuff. And then I think the other part that is a big blemish on James Franklin's resume is pretty much ever since COVID, they have not had a really good receiving core, and they really haven't had an alpha like they have had in the past over at Penn State. I mean, they had always had guys like Allen Robinson. Juwan Johnson was a really good player that played in the COVID year. Then you had another guy like Chris Godwin, who was also amazing. And they had a good receiving core with that 2016 team that you could argue had the most success. It's just it was a younger team building towards that success in 2016. And I think if you look back at the James Franklin tenure, these last couple of years have not been the years where you're like, man, that was really our year. You're looking at 2017, in which you allowed Ohio State to come back in that game, in the horseshoe, and you let that game beat you twice. You lost to a lesser team in Michigan State the following week. I believe it was the following week. You look at this Penn State program, and that was their ceiling with Trace McSorley, Saquon Barkley, Chris Godwin, Saeed Blacknall was a really good player, Mike Gesicki, and a really good defense as well, as they've always had a really good defense. And that was one of my concerns about Penn State coming into the year, is they didn't really have that alpha on that defense the way they've had with guys like Micah Parsons and Abdul Carter. Denai Sutton's a really good player, but he's not a game wrecker, a game changer the way that they've had in the past. But ultimately, when you look at the time recently that Penn State has had, ultimately not having answers on the offensive side of the ball, on the perimeter especially, is what really got Penn State into this situation. And you can't blame anybody else but James Franklin for that, no doubt. But there's still an element to this where it seems like there was a lack of appreciation for what that program had become, uh, given to where they were a decade ago and when James Franklin took over at Penn State. This program was dead and in the dirt, and now you look up, and just last year they have an 11-1 regular season. They go to the Big Ten championship. They're in the semifinals for the college football playoff. They are in this situation for a reason. They were in that situation for a reason, and I think that Penn State fans putting all the pressure on the big games made this team lose focus and let them get clipped by UCLA, let them get clipped by Northwestern. And the one other criticism I can give to James Franklin is he is not very good responding off of an emotional loss. He is just not. And getting your team back up and off the mat, that is something that needs to be talked about. It goes under the radar a little bit too much. He is 10-22 against the spread in his career off of a loss. That is pretty bad. That stat, by the way, is unofficial. He's got 45 losses in his career, but that might be like since 2016 or something like that. Anyway, this is a proud program with a lot of tradition, and I don't know where they go from here. I truly don't. They have the ability to recruit at a high level. They showed with the spending of getting Jim Knowles that they could pay a guy. They're just showing now with the buyout that they can pay. They got some money. I can't even start with talking about candidates for this job because I really, again, don't know where you go from here. Like, obviously, you got to go after guys like Kurt Signetti, for example, trying to steal them away. You got to go after somebody that has a little bit of a draw, one of the best coaches in America, because you are that type of program historically and financially. But the problem is there is not too many coaches out there that you're going to find that's a better coach than James Franklin. And that's the scary part about firing a guy like James Franklin, who consistently has won 10 games a year. This is a tough situation to be in for Penn State, and I feel for their fans. I know that they felt like they've been knocking on the door for a decade now, and now it feels like it's all falling apart. You've been knocking at the door, and nobody has ever come to answer for you. So definitely a little bit sad for the Penn State fans out there, and we'll see how much fight they have the rest of the season. I do not know who their interim coach is going to be. I'm going to look that up real quick. They're going to, well, I don't see anything. Terry Smith will be the interim coach, according to Pete Thamel about 50 minutes ago. So, yeah, we'll see how this team bounces back from that. I mean, they lost Drew Aller for the season. I have not seen any clarity on the extent of the injury, but James Franklin established it was a season-ending injury after the loss yesterday to Northwestern. And now it is truly building for the future, but the problem now is like you're almost going to have to sell your future to coaches. I mean, that's what you got to do. I don't know, man. It's really a really bad situation in Happy Valley right now. And yeah, it's tough. You look at their schedule coming up, man. They got Ohio State and Indiana back to back off a bye. We'll see how that goes. We will see. Any thoughts about this situation? Make sure to comment down below. And I am going to go ahead and hop off. Just wanted to touch on that before we get to the evening, where I'm going to come out with the top 25 and recap the week for you. But this is big news, and I felt like this was a good time to go live and talk about it. So I'm going to end the live stream here, and I'm going to, like I said, edit it and repost it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.